Welcome everyone. We're here together for Ask Me Anything session number 10. I am here in the Amsterdam office, and I'm together with Ken Vernijen. He's on the line. He'll join us later. And what we will talk about today are the portfolio objectives. So you may have already seen the system objectives. Per system, you are able to set goals to work towards. But recently, about 2 months ago, we started rolling out this new feature about the portfolio level as well. This will be the topic of today. If we look back and forward, we know that we had a lot of Ask Me Anythings before already. For example, the last one last year was with Michiel Kuipers, our support manager, who shared the answers on more frequently asked questions. And the next one will be in end of February on security and open source health, the two particular modules and also the workflows around that. As for today, we are in the afternoon session at 3 p.m. Central European time, and Ken Vernijen is going to talk to you about that. Before we do that, I briefly want to recap what we talked about last time. So last time we had a session about the frequently asked questions. We had about 9 different questions in 3 groups about things like analyses. So how do our analyses work? What do we get whenever we start working with it? Also, how do I set up my system so that it works most perfectly for me? And once it's set up, how does it incorporate into my workflows? The questions you see here, I'm not going to handle them here again as we did last time, but you can rewatch them on YouTube because we recorded those sessions as well. I'll share a link where you can find them later on in the session. That said, let's focus on what we are doing today, and that is the portfolio quality management, where the portfolio objectives, so setting goals for your entire portfolio to start with as a first step. And this is a cue for me to hand over to Ken and start talking about the content.
Yes, hello. Some of you might recognize this picture from an earlier Ask Me Anything session where we introduced objectives. A small recap for that: objectives help you to prioritize your quality insights. Because when you open any quality insight tool, you might see some red boxes. This might be, for example, a 1-star rating for maintainability, but it doesn't mean that that should be the first thing that you should work on. And that, how do you know that? When you think about the business context, you might get some different insights. For example, that 1-star system might be a legacy system that should be decommissioned in a couple of years. And it's probably then not a good idea to invest a lot to work towards 4-star rating. That's the business context that is very necessary to know what are the priorities. And that's why we added objectives in Sigrid, to add the business context to your quality insights. And if you do this, you can also track progress towards company goals. And we will show you how the new portfolio objectives overview can help you align those goals. So earlier, you could set goals on a system level for each of the quality insights that you can get on Sigrid. But now you can also set objectives for groups of systems. And this based on their context or metadata, if you know the terms in Sigrid. And we will show you some examples during this session. And I'll take over the screen to show it directly in Sigrid. I like this session to be as interactive as possible, so please find your unmute button whenever you have a question in mind.
Yeah, so maybe I have a question for the audience now. We're talking about portfolio objectives. They've been around for a while now in different forms. We've been updating them and then expanding them. Have any of you already seen them before? Have you seen them or worked with them?
Yes, we do. We use the system objectives, not very long. We started a few months ago, We also added portfolio objectives, but that's not really applicable right now because we have different domains and not all the objectives are the same for each domain currently. So we're working on synchronizing them, and then we can use the portfolio objectives also.
All right, yeah, that's a very useful feedback to know. We wrote it down. We heard that this morning as well. But Ken is going to talk about that a bit more in detail and show you what we have and what we're working on.
Indeed.
Okay.
And anyone else that has seen this already or not yet? I mean, no is also an answer.
Okay. Well, if anything comes up in your mind, you can always unmute yourself and ask questions. So if you open Sigrid, small recap for some people, you always end up in the portfolio overview first, where all of these blocks, they are systems that have some quality aspects that are analyzed by Sigrid. So here you have maintainability, architecture, open source health, and so on. And this view actually shows you the quality insight without the business context. So if you would see this, then you would think that the orange boxes are the ones to focus on. But that's not always the case, like I mentioned in the example. There's a very interesting tab here that can be helpful. That's the rate by objective completeness, which colors the systems with the objective completeness. So for example, if the objectives are met, then they are marked green. If there's some work to do, they are marked yellow or red. And this is also applicable across the different quality insights. So this gives you a view of what your priorities are based on your business context. And earlier, you could set those system objectives in here, where you can add these goals per system. And this was very helpful to already get a priority on a system level. But now, if you have noticed, there's a new tab here, and that's objectives on the portfolio level, where we can set these goals for a group of systems. Let me give you an example. For example, if you click on Add Portfolio Objective, we imagine the example that security is very important to you, to the business, and you want to avoid that there are any security vulnerabilities in the libraries of all the systems that you have in your portfolio. But you know that you cannot fix everything, so you can add some criteria. I'll go over that. So I'll select the capability open source health and select the open source max vulnerability. This is about the vulnerabilities, known vulnerabilities that are found in the libraries in software. We can say that there should be no higher than medium risks in the software. And then we can select some criteria. So if you don't set criteria here, it will apply to all your systems in your portfolio. But sometimes it's not achievable to directly focus on all the vulnerabilities across your whole portfolio. So you might think of some priorities. I see Stefan raised his hand. Please.
Yes, because I was able to fill in the first two boxes, but the object criteria, I wasn't able to fill them. Is that something that I should configure somewhere else in the application?
So the objective criteria is actually a feature that is not released not too long ago. I don't know if it was a couple of weeks ago that you tried this, or
yes, I think 6 weeks ago, maybe, or
yes,
maybe more.
Yeah,
Shima is also with us here. She has an answer to this.
I have a question actually. Stefan, did you make sure you choose the first 3 boxes before you move on to set your criteria? So capability type and the third one, which is your target.
In my opinion, I had 2 boxes. Latest view I had. I will log in and check again.
So what happens is that we are fixing the UI of this. There will be steppers, so it will be much more intuitive to follow, but it is good feedback for us as well. I think that may be the problem, but let me know if it's fixed or not.
Yeah, I will log in and have a look. Thank you.
Great. Well, if you're able to select the criteria, you will see that currently it's possible to select criteria across 4 different metadata types. You can select a group of systems with the same technology categories. For example, you want to set an objective for legacy systems. In this example, we will not set a technology category. Deployment type, is it public facing or internal? For now, the open source health vulnerabilities are most important in the public facing systems. Lifecycle phase, is it a new system or is it already almost end of life? That's not applicable here. And business criticality, let's say that we will first focus on all the critical systems. We can add the rationale to mention why business thinks this is important. No security vulnerabilities in public facing and critical systems. Libraries. So let's hit save. And then we see a new item popping up here where the objective is not met yet. The target is no medium risk or higher. The criteria is all the critical systems and public facing systems. And then we see the progress that 4 out of 5 systems with this criteria are already adhering to the objective. So there's still 1 system left that should be fixed, and then you are in the clear. Let's see, currently it is not possible yet to drill down here. So there's that's because we are rolling out this feature little by little. But if you want to know what systems are adhering, you have to go to the portfolio overview, rate by objective completeness, like I showed before, and then go to the open source health tab. You will see that there are a lot of systems here, and that's because some of these systems have set system level objectives. Let's filter out the public facing and the critical systems. And here we see the 1 system that does not adhere yet to this new portfolio objective.
Shima has a comment to make.
Yeah.
Sorry again. I think that Ken, your presentation is really good in the right direction, of course, but I think that they can use also one more benefit in filtering is that if they, in their divisions, because that's what they said, they have domains, if they select favorite systems for their domains, and then maybe, Ken, you can help me show this. So if you make favorite Hadoop, for example, and then go to the filter, and then show my favorites only. Always, when you come to the software, you can only focus on your domains, and it will make filtering also a lot easier for you. And then you can also use the grouping that Ken was showing you guys. And then this way, you cut through the noise of seeing everybody else's systems.
Yes, that's a very good addition, Shima. Are there any questions going through this objectives flow? Oh, I see Stefan raising his hand.
Yes, I managed to log in Sigrid, and I see the objective criteria. I see also categories like technology category. I cannot match those values with the values I have on the metadata.
Yes. Well, technology category is something that is filled in automatically. That is not based on the metadata that you can set.
Okay.
If it's, for example, PL SQL, it will be marked as database automatically.
Okay.
But that's a very good
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, that's a very good question. There's one place that you can see what was automatically assigned to your system as the technology category metadata, and that is in the system overview page.
System overview. Okay. I'll have a
And
look.
as Ken already said, you're improving little by little. We're working agile, so you will see that you're implementing here and there, but we're getting there.
Okay.
At the
Oh, yeah.
very last,
Yeah.
in the metadata field, you can see which technology category was assigned to your system.
Maybe also good to know, if you are setting system level objectives, then on the same category and it overlaps with the portfolio objective, then the system level objective overrides the portfolio level objective. You can use this flow as, for example, there's a management team that wants to set some policies and they define some portfolio level objectives. And some teams can validate this, see this in on their system level objective that they should do something because it's not met their new objective, portfolio objective. Then you can override as a team this objective, and then you can start discussing with management why this system, for example, cannot adhere to this objective. And this can lead to very interesting discussions and to more achievable deadlines. For example, if management really needs this objective to be achieved in a quarter, the team says this is not achievable. These are really discussions you want to have as early as possible. So this way you can work together, management development teams, and align on this view.
Yeah. So before we go to the slides, I think that's where you're heading towards, Ken.
Yep.
Maybe a question to you guys, if you want to say something about the way you now work together. Is it more like a traditional top-down view, right, where you try to, as management, have some ideas, but also want to keep things in check, or is it more the bottom-up view where the developers get all the freedom to do whatever they want and whatever they can do best? Is there a way that fits you more, or maybe it's in the center where do you have a bit of both?
Yeah, for me it's both, because you have your targets from the management. You really would like to solve as many as possible and have good quality, but you have also the agile teams working on all kinds of features, and quality is important, but they cannot work through everything, so they have to make choices. So it's a bit of both worlds, where we like to do nice new features, but also take some of those critical issues along the way.
Yeah, so it's a bit of both indeed. Yeah, that makes sense.
Before we go to the PowerPoint slides, I wanted to show one more thing with the technology stack, if you don't mind. I just remember. May I?
Sure, why not?
So, Ken, if you present again, there, I mentioned only in one system you can see where the technology category is, but in the portfolio you can also group it to see your technology category, which I think is much easier than. By the way, yeah, exactly. Then this way, if you set your domain, then you can see exactly which is what.
Yeah, so for an entire portfolio, this is the way easier way to find out what the technology category is, how we categorize them. Yeah, good addition, Shima.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll head back to my PowerPoint slides. So, like Hugo mentioned, there are a couple of ways that software is actually managed. We come across a lot of clients with different ways of managing this. There's the traditional top-down model where management decides what and how the software is implemented. This mainly leads to developers that are not that happy, and also software that is not that qualitative. There are some outliers where management is also technical, but this does not happen very often. We also come across the other way, the full developer autonomy model, where management decides functionality, but development teams have the full control of what is being implemented and how it is implemented. This often results in generally better software, but there are some risks that it does not align with where the business wants to steer towards, because it's not aligning with business concerns. And what you want to aim for is actually to work in in this ideal hybrid model where management decides what needs to be implemented and also defines some policies. And these policies can be, for example, these objectives. Development teams still decide how it's implemented. Management doesn't decide the architecture that should be implemented, the technologies, but development teams make their decision based on these policies. And you can see these policies as non-functional requirements. And actually to work towards a hybrid model like this, one of the things you can do is align on these objectives. As you see on the left, management mainly thinks about business concerns. They write this down as, for example, OKRs, objective key results, KPIs, key performance indicators. There are a lot of terms to define business concerns and goals. And at the right side, you see that development teams speak a very different language. There are some technical concerns, and if you open up Sigrid and you deep dive, then you will come across a lot of technical terms. Of course, to work together to get to this hybrid model, it's very important that everyone understands each other and that the goals that are set on the left side and on the right side, that they align. And in 2 slides, I will show you a matrix of a translation model of some business concerns and how you can, how they relate to the technical concerns. But first of all, I want to ask the audience if you can share some of the business concerns that you have in your company and how you align them with the technical implementation. So is there anyone that want to share business concerns?
So it's a bit more about the abstract business concerns that that we sometimes see, right? Or maybe you experience. Can imagine it could be security, maybe. Would that be a topic? Reliability?
Well,
Keeps quiet.
keep this question in mind. I will show you the matrix and maybe things become more clear. So here we have a mapping between, on the left side, the technical concerns. You can see that there are some capabilities or quality aspects that you can find in Sigrid. These are more defined on technical aspect. And at the top, you can find business concerns. These are market adaptability, time to market, cost efficiency, and so on. And the mapping between them, you can actually use this to align these goals, because if management can more talk in these terms, they know, for example, we need to fasten the time to market. But now with this graph, you can also see what buttons you have to turn in a tool like Sigrid to achieve a faster time to market. For example, you want to set goals for the maintainability, the test code ratio, the reliability, and the architecture quality. This is how you can read this graph. So I'll repeat my question. Is there someone in the audience that wants to share business concerns? It's possible that your business concerns aren't on the slide. Then we can learn or find out together what technical goals you can set.
Well, if no one has any of the things to talk about, maybe we can just pick one, right, and see what it looks like.
Well, let's show you 3 examples.
Oh yeah.
Imagine the business says we have to shorten the time to market. We can set a technical objective to aim for 4 stars for all systems. Of course, like we've seen in the examples or in the demo, if for all systems is too broad, maybe your whole portfolio, maybe 100 systems need to be improved, then this can be a little bit too difficult to achieve. And then we can make this a little bit less strict and say that the maintainability should be 4 stars for business critical systems. That's how you can achieve a more achievable goal, and also prioritize which systems are more important to focus on. If your goal is to reduce cybersecurity breaches, you can set that there should be no low or higher severity vulnerabilities in public-facing systems. Public-facing systems are often the most important for these vulnerabilities, where if all of these are achieved, you can make it a little bit more strict and say that also the internal systems should have no vulnerabilities. And last, if you want to improve the system scalability because you expect a lot more users in the future, this can be a business concern, then you can say that we want a high, let's say 4 stars architecture quality. And system Artemis is one of the systems in our example page, in our Sigrid open demo page, just as merely as an example. So these are 3 examples. If you want to discuss your business concerns and want to us to help you with what quality aspects you should set goals for, then we can help you with that.
Yeah, so what you're referring to is some kind of workshop format, right? Where we support our customers or some of our customers in translating the business objectives or business concerns to technical concerns and to see how these map. I mean, this is a picture, obviously, but there's much more detail behind it. And also sometimes the implications are a bit hard to understand, as you say, for particular targets. Does it make sense so far? I think it does.
It does, yes. These are the main topics, but the discussions are more about the scale and cost, and so first of all you have the goals, and then you see the implications, the impact of those goals, and you have to set further goals to align them with the the quarterly goals and make them more scalable.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I would definitely recommend to implement a quarterly session, for example, to refine the goals, because you might recognize indeed that if you set a certain goal, that it has an impact indeed on the investments and the costs, and that it should be aligned every quarter, for example.
Yeah. Yeah. This was a good start. Yeah, we have to look further to into this topic.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, it's pretty new in Sigrid, obviously, and yeah, I can imagine that you have some questions maybe around it whilst you start playing around with it.
Yeah, and mainly it's the architecture module that is quite new.
Mhm.
And that's something we have to discuss with the architecture people, architects, how they experience that module. They're a little skeptic, but also enthusiastic about it. It differs per person.
Of course, yeah. Yeah.
If this graph also can help, if, for example, you want to convince management that if, for example, the developers or the architects notice that the architecture is something that should be invested in, then development teams can use also this graph to convince management that, for example, if we don't invest in architecture quality, then the time to market is lower, the cost efficiency is lower, and scalability is lower. And that's also something you can use towards communication like that.
Yeah, yeah. So you first have to look into that, and we can discuss this also with our consultant.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you want to know more about architecture quality before you or you have any questions around that, obviously you can find more information in the documentation. It's the same holds also for the portfolio objectives. I can maybe briefly show you around in the documentation if you want me to, and then I can switch over to wrapping up the session, I think, unless there are other questions about this topic. So I will. Let me give
It's also an ask me anything. So
Yeah.
if there are any questions about Sigrid, something else, then you can also ask them now.
Yeah.
Hugo, I'll hand over the screen to you.
Yeah, I can also take it from you. So there we go. So here we have the portfolio, the open demo portfolio that Ken was just showing. Not going into the portfolio itself, but I want to show you the documentation. So if we go there, we'll see the documentation. We'll also see the sign up link for the next Ask Me Anything session, by the way. But I'm not going to focus on that. There's a bit of information. First, I'll talk about portfolio objectives, and I'll show you a bit about the architecture quality as well. So first, portfolio objectives. There's a few steps for them to make them work most effectively or efficiently. One is to set up Sigrid and add the context using the metadata. There's different ways. For example, you can do that through Sigrid itself. I don't know if you've already seen that, but there's more options to it as well. If I go down here, it gets more interesting if you have a bit more self-service and you want to have more large-scale portfolios handled in Sigrid. You can also add that using your own configuration file in your repository. More information about that is written here, and you can find more information about how to do that down there. Once you did that, you can continue to the portfolio level capabilities tab. And for example, what we talked about today are the portfolio objectives. So we talked about what they are, what they look like, how they differ from system objectives. Here's a bit of a demo from an earlier version of the portfolio objectives by Ken and Shima, who are both part of the call today as well. And if you go down a bit further, you get a bit more information as to what we have, why we have it, what the relationships are, stuff like that. It's all available there. And then last but not least, what I want to show you is, for example, if we're talking about portfolio objectives and portfolio governance, as to say IT governance, These workflows for managers are, or at least some suggestions for workflows are written down here. For example, as we see more and more often is that the goal setting is an important one. So setting objectives, and that's what we talked about today. There's a bit more information down here as well, also for other roles. That said, going into the other question about the architecture. If I go to system level capabilities, we have the architecture quality tab over here. It has more information about architecture quality, as you can imagine. We have a recording of a demo about what it is and what the different aspects are. You get a bit more information on all kinds of levels, what they are, what they do, what it looks like, what you can find here, how it works, how you can configure it, things like that. That's one part. And another thing I want to show you is we have more information on what the quality model is. So if you want to know more about the architecture quality in a broad sense, we have the architecture quality guidance for producers as well down here. I see Paul asked the question or said only the administrator role can edit metadata in the system. It would be nice if the user role could do this as well. I'm passing this question on to Shima. Does this make sense? Do we get this question more often?
If the user role can do it?
Yeah, so the
No, actually
admin
we
can
get
do
the
now.
opposite, that they would like more control over who sets the objective, just in case that then it disrupts other teams or things like that.
So what you say is it's more towards the admin than towards the user.
Yeah,
Yeah,
admin, yeah,
That's
exactly.
currently the case. Yeah. So Paul asks the other way around. Maybe if you want, can you elaborate a little bit on that, Paul, if you'd like to? What would be for you the use case? I mean, apparently we're leaning towards the other direction. I'm just curious what to.
Well, we're adding the applications to the system for them through the with our personal access token. We don't want to have to maintain the metadata as well. We were trying to push it to the users to maintain the metadata for their own systems. Otherwise, we're doing a lot of work.
Yeah. So my question then, I'm looking now at Shima. How does it work with the YAML files, for example, configuration? Do you need to be an admin and the YAML file in the repository for it to be taken into account? Sorry, that's not on objectives, right?
No, actually, I'm not 100% sure, but I was under the impression that yes, it needs to be, but I'm not 100% sure. Sorry. Do you know the answer, Ken, or yourself, Hugo?
Not at this moment. I think what we can do, Paul, is check back, see how it what the actual implementation is, and I'll or Ken or Shima get back to you.
Okay, yeah, the workaround is we're asking them to update the YAML file and do it that way.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
Same applies for us also. We get the same questions because the admin is someone a little bit more detached from where the work has really been done.
Yep.
Well,
And
what you
most of all, there are managers from departments that want to define their portfolio, or it are the developers.
Yep. What you can do is indeed add the metadata to the YAML file, but also you can use the API. If you use the API, then you should get an API token from an administrator. This can be a real administrator or an administrator user just to get a token. Then you can use the API. We have a client that, for example, has metadata somewhere already in a separate system, and they integrated that every push towards Sigrid, they also fetch the metadata from their secondary system and upload it together with the snapshot. That's how you can get automatic synchronization between your existing systems and Sigrid.
So if there's no further questions, let me wrap this up. I have a few more slides. I just showed you a bit of the documentation, what you can find in the documentation and where you can find it. It's in Sigrid in the top right corner. I have a few QR codes of different pages that may make sense to check it out. For example, the center one is about portfolio objectives that we just talked about. or the workflow on the right-hand side. I showed them the one for the manager, but for product owners, I have one highlighted here as well. That's one part. The other part I mentioned in the beginning of this training already is that we have the previous Ask Me Anything sessions also recorded, edited, shortened, and pushed on YouTube. So there is a bit of information about the previous AMAs that you can find there. For example, the one on architecture quality. You don't see it in the list here, but we have it. Oh, yeah, you see it, by the way. It's number 8. We have it down here, presented by the feature consultant, Ikriti Dingra, who's explaining everything there is to know about the module. So if you want to know a bit more about that beforehand, feel free to just check that one out. This is just available there. Then, if we look ahead into the future, number 11 is coming up. The next one, I mentioned it in the beginning as well. We're going to look at the security and open source health management, about the workflows around it, about what you can do to best prioritize the work. We'll also look at the objectives, obviously, it's part of that, but also about the models themselves and how you can work with that best. It's probably going to be Asma who's going to do that session, Thursday, February 29, at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. It's going to be an English session as well. That said, that was it from my side. If you do not have any more questions, then, well, that's a question though. But if you don't have any questions, then I would like to thank you for your attention. I would like to thank you for participating. We have some questions. We'll get back to you, Stefan, Paul, with some answers, hopefully, or follow-up questions. And I hope to see you the next time again.